Dungeons & Dragons 3.5 edition. A fun but complex board game where anything can happen. Oh, I know. Let's make it into an MMO. Hello, my name is Fingen, and welcome to my, not so, small guide to the beginners of a game that I have played for over a decade now. Dungeons & Dragons Online, or DDO for short. I have around 6,500 hours on this game, and it will probably be going up as long as the game will be alive. In this guide, I will be talking about the basics of the game. I will try to be as thorough as I can, but I'll also try to keep it simple for you guys. After all, there are a lot of things to take in, so being as clear and concise as possible is my goal here. This video is for those who either have gotten into DDO and want to delve deeper into the game, or those who have been thinking to try the game, but are worried about the big information wall in front of them. If this is the first time you hear about this game, you may check out Josh Strive Hayes' video about DDO in his Worst MMO Ever series. He gives a rather nice ups and downs of the game from a new player's perspective. I will apologize beforehand if this is an information overload for you guys. I mean, this stupid script is 15 pages long. I want to make this video so that people can come here and learn, but due to the vast amount of information in DDO, there are just a lot of things to go through. So please, take things as slowly as need be. I'll be adding chapters to each part so you can come and see about any specific info you might be looking after this video. Now, before further ado, let's get right into it. Before I delve into any deeper about classes, races, and so on, let's first check the fundamentals of the game. Not only I will go quickly through the basic D&D stuff, but I will also go through the controls in this section. In this game, you have 6 ability scores to determine what your character is good at. Strength, Dexterity, Constitution, Intelligence, Wisdom, and Charisma. Strength determines how strong you are, how much damage you deal with melee, and determines how much weight you can carry in your backpack. Dexterity is your nimbleness, gives you extra defenses, and also is a big determination on saving throws against most spells with projectile, called the reflex save. It also determines how much damage you do with your ranged weapons. Constitution is about your sturdiness. It gives more health the more you have it, and also is one of the other spell saves you need, Fortitude. Intelligence is your general knowledge, as it is the main attribute for wizards, artificers, and alchemists for spellcasting. It also affects how many skill points you get per level up. We'll get to the skills soon, so let's put a pin on this. Wisdom is your wits, and the main attribute for clerics, druids, and favored souls, though paladins and rangers do need wisdom to cast their spells as well. It is also the main determination for the third spell save type, Will. Charisma is all about how well your social interactions go, but it is also a spellcasting stat for sorcerers, warlocks, bards, paladins, and favored souls. The ability score to your stat is usually not the number you want to look out for, but instead you want to look at the ability modifier, which you can find here. Whenever you use your ability for anything, like spell casting, you look at the modifier. The modifier increases by 1 every even level, though the base modifier 0 starts at score 10. You also have hit points, or HP, as well as spell points, or SP. Now, that's done about the stats at least. Now to actually controlling your character. WASD is moving, with A and D being turning left and right, and space is jump. Left click is attack and interact. Right click is selecting a target. Holding right click allows you to control your aim, and middle click is free camera. Shift allows you to block, and pressing WASD while blocking allows you to step or tumble. M opens the map. E is a button for interact as well. Q targets the closest object that's not an enemy. Tab cycles through the enemy targets. And R is auto run. You may press 1 to 0 to activate skills on your first bar, and you can press T to toggle mouse look, just like you'd always hold right click. When you're swimming, your movement is still around the same. A and D turns, W goes forward, D swims backwards. However, in order to dive down, you need to aim your camera downwards, then swim forwards. While underwater, you can use the mouse aim to swim towards that direction you want to go to, and you can use the jump button to quickly ascend upwards. From the settings, you can remap many of your buttons, like A and D being strafe instead, or able to press buttons for your second bar skills, and so on. I highly recommend looking through what fits you the most. There are also quick shortcuts to your other needs. C is for character compendium, where you can see all your stats, your skills, your feats. Control plus R opens up enhancements window. O opens up social tab for groups and friend list. L opens up your quest journal. And P opens your adventure compendium. If you hate auto-targeting, you can also toggle it by pressing G. In DDO, you choose everything your character can do. This is one of the best strengths of the game, but it is also its weakness. You can do anything you want, from axe-swinging wizards to dagger-throwing fighters. Options are endless, and so is the information that comes with it. So, I'll briefly talk about the two important systems in this game determining your character: skills and feats. Skills are usually non-damage focused stuff you might be wanting for your character. Each class gives you a certain amount of base skill points, while your intelligence modifier can also increase or decrease this amount. They mostly affect things outside the combat, with a couple exceptions. We will be delving deeper into these later on. Feats are perks that you get at level 1, and then at level 3, and every third level after that. Classes can grant more bonus feat choices depending on the class, though each class grants at least some feats. Feats are the heart of your character, as they determine what kind of playstyle you are going with them in all aspects. For melee, for ranged, and spellcasting alike. We will look at the feats more closely later, as there are tons of feats, and to be fair, I don't want to bore you right at the start. These are very few basics of the game, but I think I made you wait too long already for the summaries of classes and races, so without further ado, let's look at the classes of DDO. Right, so let me summarize all classes for you. I will briefly touch in each class and explain what they do, what they excel at, and what are their weaknesses. There are 15 different classes: Alchemist, Artificer, Barbarian, Bard, Cleric, Druid, Favored Soul, Fighter, Monk, Paladin, Ranger, Rogue, Sorcerer, Warlock, and Wizard. In addition to that, there are currently 6 variations to select classes called archetypes: Stormsinger Bard, Dark Apostate Cleric, Lightcaster Druid, Sacred Fist Paladin, Dark Hunter Ranger, and Acolyte of the Skin Warlock. Barbarian is a heavy hitter class, being able to dish out great deals of damage. Their main ability is to get into a rage, which gives them even more power to hit stuff. While they do have the greatest health gain of all classes, and they have a way to reduce melee damage they take, they don't do fairly well against spells. And while they have a way later on to heal themselves, it is nothing drastically good. Fighters are the utility melee class, having access to most equipments and also having access to most amount of feats. They have no problems on picking which kind of fighting style they want to use either. While they have access to so many good options in feats, they lack in self-sustainability. Casters are also their bane if left unchecked. Monks are the masters of the fists, being able to dish out attacks fast, even if the damage itself stays rather low. They have access to elemental stances to adjust to whatever is needed, as well as a strong stunning capabilities. However, they are limited on what weapons they can use if they want to benefit most of the monk's bonuses. Paladins are the holy warriors of Eberron, smiting their enemies down with their holy weapons. Blessed by their god, they can benefit from using their god's favored weapons. Even without that, they can cast some divine spells to aid in their journey, which includes healing spells. They also have an access to an instant speed fast heal called Lay on Hands. While they also can do great against spellcasters, they have issues with skills and feats to fill all their needs. Sacred Fist Paladins sacrifice most of their proficiencies to instead be deadly with their fists. They get even harder to kill, but also cannot wear anything better than robes, just like monks. Their issues with skills and feats persist as well. Clerics are the divine casters of this game, having access to best heals in the game. However, they also have a great deal of damage or crowd control if they choose to specialize into those. They can also go more melee route if they choose so. While their main issue comes from other casters, their more defensive buff should mitigate most of the issues. Dark Apostate clerics are more sinister versions of the cleric, focusing more on the negative energy they have, including even having their own undead form they can use. While they lose a little bit on the healing side, they gain access to more offensive side bonuses, for both melee and caster side. Casting spells from the natural powers and having a wolf on their side, the druid is the shapeshifters of the game, being able to turn into a wolf, a bear, or an elemental at will. Because of this, they have several ways to play, either as a spellcaster, attacking from afar, or as a close-ranged melee caster hybrid that can either deal a lot of damage or tank. However, they cannot use metallic armor or shields, which heavily limits what they can use. They also don't have the best heals, but definitely still workable ones. Light casters are the more darker side of the druid, losing their pet, orm spells, fire spells, and the better healing spells in exchange for more acidic and poisonous spell. They also instead turn into a thornkin or hive keepers instead of bears or elementals. While they can still heal, it is not the greatest, just enough to take care of people after a fight. Wizards are the arcane casters, being able to usually have better crowd controlling spells or more varied spells to attack with, or in general to have those spells in the quest. They do have access to sinister magic as well, as they can turn themselves into one of the undead forms, where they can possibly heal themselves using negative energy. They can also go more melee route as well, while still wielding their magical capabilities. However, their saves aren't greatest, and they are also tied to lowest health in the game with Sorcerer. Sorcerers are more offensively focused arcane casters, specializing in two of the elements to dish out the most amount of damage. Although they have less actual spells to cast, they have a lot more spell points to cast those few spells they have. While they too have access to melee should they wish to, they have no way to heal themselves, which can be an issue when you have low health too. Warlocks, while having a lot less spells available to use, have their own free spell as an auto attack, Eldritch Blast, which is a strong attack considering it is free to use. While they do have the lowest health tied to the other arcane spellcasters, they can be turned into a rather good tank if wanting so. However, they can also go into a more instant killing way or crowd controlling way with their choices. Acolytes are very much like normal warlocks, except they are perhaps even more focused on their eldritch blasts than other warlocks, at the cost of even less spells to use. Favored souls are like the sorcerer versions of the divine class, having access to more spell points but have less available spells to choose from. They also get automatic bonuses to their favored weapons compared to paladins or clerics. Their focus can also differ from being offensive caster, healer, or a more melee-oriented attacker. While they have good health and can do well against casters, they are much more narrow on what they can do compared to clerics. Bards are the best buffers of the game. Being able to sing their ballads to people to give them extra benefits what cannot be removed is a fantastic party buff to people. Not only that, but they can also move into many different directions. From throwing spells, to being a healer, to attacking with the two-handed weapons, or even go with only a single weapon. However, they lack a bit of oomph for their damage. Bard is the definition of Jack of all trades, Master of none. Stormsinger bards forfeit a good amount of buffs coming from their songs in exchange for being able to be a lot more caster-oriented playstyle, which even includes getting certain spells they didn't used to get. Consider this archetype being more working on the back than the traditional bard. Rogues are considered to be one of the trappers of the game, which means being able to open locks, disable traps, and finding secret pathways. However, they are also great at dealing damage, as long as they aren't the ones getting attacked. Their damage comes heavily from sneak attacks, which I'll explain later, so pin. Without them, they don't have too high damage, and don't have that good defenses against other melees. Spellcasters though, rogues eat them like worms. Despite the name, rangers are excelling in two kinds of styles. Either as a bow user from afar, enchanting their arrows to deal more damage, or as a spinning, dual-wielding melee. Regardless of the style, rangers are good in a lot of areas. Good at dealing damage from close and afar, good against spells, fair self-sustain and buffs from spells, and an ample amount of skills to choose from. They just aren't top of the class of anything. Foregoing some of the rangers' evasiveness and magical bow skills, the Dark Hunter ranger equips themselves with heavy armor and being able to be the trapper, while being accompanied by a Dark Wolf pet. They are a little more vulnerable to magic in exchange, however, and having admixtures as a heal instead of spells, which, while being able to heal multiple people, is slower to use. Alchemists are the special kind of caster, having access to their own spells, which do still offer a large variety of options. They can be played as a healer, a nuker, or even a firing melee ranged attacker, as long as they use simple weapons. They do have low health, unfortunately, and have rather high learning curve to learn about the reactions. Artificers are the third trapper of the game, but this time more focused on spells than the other two. They also have a dog defender to use as a pet, and access to their special equipment, rune arms. While they can be tanky if built like it, the lack of any way to mitigate taking damage from taps hurt them a lot. Using a rune arm also restricts you to only using either single-handed weapons or crossbows. Their spellcasting ability is rather fine though. Now that we've gone through the classes, let's tackle the races too. Selecting your race affects your character as well, as each race have their strengths and weaknesses and have their own enhancement tree, which we'll be looking at later. There are 15 races: Dragonborn, Drow, Dwarf, Elf, Gnome, Halfling, Half-Elf, Half-Orc, Human, Tiefling, Warforged, Wood Elf, Aasimar, Shifter, and Tabaxi. Dragonborns are strong, half-dragon, half-human-like creatures. They have higher strength and charisma, but have a penalty on dexterity. As you select a Dragonborn, you also choose their ancestry. This gives both resistance to an element, as well as gives you an option to obtain a breath attack of that element. Drows have far better stats from other races, having higher dexterity, intelligence, and charisma. But it comes at the cost of constitution. They can, however, use short swords and rapiers no matter the class, and can coat their weapons in poison. Dwarves are tough warfare veterans, having extra constitution, but then lacking in charisma. They gain dwarven access as long as they know how to handle a martial weapon, as well as gaining extra bonuses in combat, including their use of axes, picks, and hammers. Elves are nimble and perceptive people, having bonus to dexterity at the cost of constitution. They learn how to use bows, long swords, and rapiers no matter the class, and can learn to magically enhance their bows no matter the class as well. Wood elves are close to the normal variant, with the exception of them being less intelligence rather than having less constitution. Gnomes are a small but clever folk, having bonus to intelligence but lacking in strength. While they favor hammers, they also are excellent at casting illusions. Halflings are the other small folk of the game, though these ones are rather luckier than the other races. They have extra dexterity at the cost of strength, and they can advance their nimbleness further should they choose so. Half-elves or helves are the social people, having access to extra activatable social skills, as well as faint knowledge of a single class you do not need to be having a level of. They are, however, still elves, so they can too learn to boost their bow skills. Half-orcs or horks are the brute people, being extra powerful with bonus to extra strength, but at the cost of being dumber and less charismatic to look at, having a lower intelligence and charisma. They specialize in melee, especially on the two-handed weapons. The most versatile folk, humans, while they do not have any extra bonuses, they have an extra feat they can get on the first level. This versatility can be furthered even more should they choose so. Tieflings are fiend-looking but charismatic race, having bonus to charisma as well as resisting fire damage. They can become further fiend-like, including extra resistances and abilities. Warforged are sentient constructs, meaning they are sturdy and are immune to a lot of what fleshy races are to. However, while they have bonus to constitution, they lack in wisdom and charisma. While they also can be healed by repair spells now, which wizards, sorcerers and artificers can learn, they only heal half of the normal from positive healing energy. They also need to take a feat should they want a better plating to resemble light or heavy armor. They are, however, excellent in warfare. Arsimars are like half-angels and looking rather holy. They have extra bonuses to wisdom and a choice of charisma or strength, as well as a single-use ability to heal themselves. They can further their bond as well as gain more use of their heals. Shifters have werewolves as their ancestry, granting them extra dexterity and a choice of constitution or wisdom at the cost of intelligence. They can shift into a form as you choose, which causes them to be considered raged. They can tap into those powers more should you choose so. Tabaxi are the catfolk, which easily gives them more dexterity and movement speed. They can also utilize their nimbleness in many ways, like being able to dodge more easily or use their claws in combat. Whatever class and race you choose, I can say that all of them are viable. Some might be even better than others, but every class has their uses, even in a big full party. Though there is one thing I highly advise you on. Do not pick a path as you choose your class. Always pick customize. The paths or pre-made builds are extremely outdated, done back in like 2006 or so, I don't know. Their ability score choices and feat choices are atrocious to today's standards. It is a very annoying thing that there hasn't been any updates to these for so long, as it only puts the information burden more to the new players. If you don't know what to put your points in, you may refer to the class section and look at what the main, secondary and possibly tertiary stats that class uses. Though I also recommend putting 6 points into Constitution for extra health no matter the class you choose. Now that we're done with classes and races, let's get to the meat and bones of the game. Combat. When you go into combat and you make your attack, your auto-hit chance is based upon several factors. I will show the formula here. This bonus will go against your enemy's armor class or AC. The main gist that the more your main attacking stat is, the better chances you have to hit. If you're confused about what a base attack bonus or BAB is, it is the amount of attack bonus you get from just being that class. Also, please do not dual wield if you do not have the feat to do so. You won't be hitting much if you do so. I would also advise you only using equipment you're proficient with if you are melee. You can see what weapons you're not proficient with by the yellow border and the exclamation mark in the item symbol. Please do remember, however, that we're in D&D area, so each attack you do, you also roll a 1d20 to see if you're hit. 1 is an automatic miss, while 20 is an automatic hit called Whirlpool, and possibly a critical hit. Speaking of critical hits, each weapon has their own critical profile. For instance, this dagger can critical on both 19 and a 20. As for damage formula, here. It also boils down to having more stats on your main ability score and the type of weapon you're using. If your attack was a critical, then this number at the end is multiplied by whatever the critical damage multiplier the weapon has. If we use the same dagger from before, it deals double damage if it critical hits. While on the subject of damage, if you're not the target when you're damaging an enemy, you're considered to be sneak attacking it. There are a few classes that can sneak attack. Rogues are mostly known for this. You can also get item enhancements that give extra damage when sneak attacking. However, your crit damage or sneak attacks aren't always guaranteed. Some creatures might resist criticals, known as them having fortification. When a creature has fortification, there is a percentual chance of them to not take crits increased damage or sneak attack. Though any ability that can happen on a critical hit still occurs. There are things that can bypass this, like the combat stance of the feat precision, which ignores 25% of the target's fortification. For all the info needed to see your weapon's damage die and enhancement bonuses, hover over your weapon. You'll see the damage die here and any enhancement bonuses here. You will also see in this window that what type of damage your weapon does. This does matter in DDO, as certain enemies have different kinds of resistances to certain attacks. It also matters what the weapon is made of against certain enemies. As basically a tip for anyone, always have at least a wooden weapon against oozes and rust monsters, though preferably a weapon not made from wood or metal like blue shine, glass or crystal. They eat your metallic weapon's durability, which is here. You can find what the weapon is made of here. Also, I might as well show you how the armor class is calculated for you here. Heavy armor has more base AC, but has much less dexterity bonus to AC, while clothing is the opposite. Heavy armor also suffers from skill penalties to jump and swim, for instance. You also have a second type of defense meant when you do get hit. This defense reduces the damage you take from either physical attacks or magical attacks, called Physical Resistance Rating or PRR, and Magical Resistance Rating or MRR. Both follow the same formula, although cloth and light armor have an MRR cap. Cloth with 50 and light armor with 100. We also might as well talk about another important piece of combat here, difficulty check. Let's hover over Trip for instance. It mentions its difficulty check or DC in its description. So with my stats on this character, it seems I have DC 15 with my Trip. When I use it, the enemy must make a strength or dexterity save against this number. Any save you do, you will throw a d20 to add to your save. So let's say this kobold has +2 dexterity save and I attempt to trip them. They would need to roll 13 or better to save from my trip attempt. If they succeed, nothing happens. If they fail, they will be knocked prone where they can't do anything until they get back up with a balance check. Speaking of DCs, let's focus on the aspect of the game that requires a lot DCs. Spellcasting. First and foremost, in order to cast your class's spells, you need to have enough spellcasting score, not modifier this time, to be able to do so. It is simple though, your casting score needs to be 10 plus the spell's level in order to at least cast the spell. Which means, for example with paladins and rangers, you need 14 wisdom to cast all your spells. Which is why, in the class section, I mentioned paladins and rangers not necessarily needing wisdom, as they can get the wisdom needed from items. Also, since you are a caster that doesn't need to physically attack, you are free to just dual wield magic enhancing weapons, ignoring any weapon proficiencies. Now, about casting spells. I went through a little bit of what a DC is in the previous section. Here we'll be diving deeper into it, because spellcasting DCs are all about wanting the enemies to fail their saves as often as they can. When you cast a spell with a DC check, a formula is as follows. For instance, my Burning Hands has 16 reflex DC at this moment, coming from 10 plus 1 plus 5 plus 0 equals 16. Any enemy hit by my Burning Hands needs to make that save. If they fail, they take the damage. If they do, they take half the damage instead. Now, not all spells have a saving throw. For instance, spells like Scorching Ray or Magic Missile cannot be saved against. They will always hit and always deal their damage. Speaking of damage, the damage of a spell is calculated like this. For instance, a Flaming Bolt at level 4 character with 69 spell power nice. Would deal averagely 37 fire damage. Arcane spellcasters, aka wizards, sorcerers, warlocks and bards, can also be subject to spell failure from wearing armor or shields. For example, I can't just slap a heavy armor on a wizard for armor and then be able to cast my spells without an issue. There are ways to reduce the failure though, like the Eldritch Night Tree from the wizard. Bards and warlocks are an exception to this, as they don't have arcane spell failure while wearing light armor. Druids can't also cast spells or use wild shape if they are wearing metallic armor or shields, so be mindful what the armor is made of when choosing what to don. You can find what the armor is made of from here. Now that we're finished talking about combat, let's delve deeper into skills and feats. Here are all skills of the game in about alphabetical order. Balance determines your ability to get back up quickly after being knocked down. Bluff is an activatable social skill with which you can either make an enemy vulnerable to sneak attacks, as well as being able to draw a single creature to you. It is also seen in a fair bit of NPC conversations. Concentration is used by all spellcasters to determine if you can keep casting a spell after getting hit. Monks also use this to retain their own resource called Ki. Diplomacy is an activatable social skill to try to make enemies target other targets than you. It is also very often used in NPC dialogues. Disable Device and Open Lock are skills too. Well, disable traps and open locked doors or chests. Only rogues, artificers and dark hunter rangers can put points here. Haggle allows you to buy things for lower price and sell things for higher price than normal to the vendors. Heal has 3 parts. It is an activatable skill to get an unconscious party member back up even if you can't heal normally. It also determines how much health you gain from resting, as well as gives you a boost to your heals, both positive and negative energy. Hide and move silently determine how well you can sneak. Higher hide means you're harder to be seen, and higher move silently means you're harder to be heard tiptoeing. Intimidate is an activatable social skill to draw the aggro into you. It is also used a fair bit when talking to NPCs. Jump determines how high you can jump. This skill has a cap of 40. Listen determines if you can hear an enemy moving while they're hidden. Perform is helping bards with their music, being mostly exclusive skill to them. It also gives extra power to your sonic spells. Repair is like heal, but for constructs, like Warforged Rays. It also gives extra damage to your repair and rust spells. Spot allows you to sense if there's a secret door, or a trap, or a hidden enemy nearby. Search is an activatable skill for you to actually find a secret door or a trap. Spellcraft increases your damage with most of the spells in the game. It is a must for all spellcasters. Swim determines how fast you can swim, as well as how long you can hold your breath underwater. Tumble determines how much less damage you take from falling damage. It also allows you to roll, or even dive or flip when you take a step. Use Magic Device, or UMD for short, allows you to cast magical objects like wands or scrolls even if you're not normally able to cast those. With skills out of the way, let's get to feats. Let's get through the basic feats every class gets, the proficiencies. Each class receives their own weapon and armor proficiencies, though they are usually categorized. For weapons, all weapons are categorized into 3 sections: simple, martial, and exotic weapons. Each class have access to different weapons, which you can find in your feat tab here. But a rule of thumb is, martial classes have access to most weapons, while arcane casters have the least weapons available for them. For armor, there are 4 categories: cloth, light, medium, and heavy. You can also find what armor you can find in the feats right here. As a rule of thumb here as well, martial classes have access to the heaviest armors, while arcane spellcasters can usually only wear cloth armor. Now, with that out of the way, let's get to the meat and bones of the feats. First and foremost, I won't be going through all the feats in this section. There are simply too many to count, and most of the feats have niche uses. However, I will be going through the most practical ones. These are the feats you always get, no matter the class. You find these as well in the feat tab. Attack toggles allow you to auto-attack after selecting a target. Defensive fighting is a combat stance you can use, which increases a little bit of your defenses at the cost of missing a little more often. Casting a spell ends this mode, however. Sneak, which allows you to start sneaking. Sunder, which is an attack that tries to reduce your enemy's defenses for a while. And Trip, which attempts to knock the enemy prone. Please note that most of these feats have some kind of prerequisites to be able to obtain. You may see these requirements when I list them in this video. A melee style feat refers to a set of 4 feats that gives bonuses to the way you're using your weapon or weapons. The set of 4 feats are labeled as normal, improved, greater, and perfect style. For example, 2 weapon fighting, improved 2 weapon fighting, and greater 2 weapon fighting. Each feat giving even further bonuses to that style. There are 5 ways you can use melee in this game. Single weapon fighting, where you have a weapon in main hand and an orb, a rune arm, or nothing in your offhand. They gain bonus speed on their attacks as you choose more of the feat. Shield mastery, which focuses on having a shield in your offhand. This style gives you more defenses depending on your shield, as well as giving you a chance to hit twice during your attack swing, known as double strike. Two-handed fighting, which focuses on two-handed weapons like greatsword. Getting more feats from here allows you to give better chances to hit a secondary target, or targets, with your swings, known as strike-through. Two-weapon fighting, which focuses on you dual-wielding weapons. This feat line allows better chances to attack with your offhand weapon per attack swing. And natural fighting, which is specifically for druids to be able to fight better while in their animal shapes, making them overall stronger. Other strong melee feats include Power Attack is a stance that trades your chances to hit an enemy to instead deal more damage to them. This damage is doubled on two-handed weapons. Improved Sunder and Improved Trip are improved versions of the automatically granted feats. Stunning Blow, and for monks, Stunning Fist, are another type of attack that attempts to stun your opponent. Cleave and Great Cleave makes you spin, attacking all enemies around you. Whirlwind Attack that makes you spin twice, dealing damage around you twice. Weapon Finesse allows you to use your dexterity to hit with light weapons. This is a good feat if your dexterity is higher than your strength. Note that this does not increase the damage you do with the weapons, however. Knight's Training allows you to use long swords, battle axes, heavy maces, and warhammers a lot better. For ranged folk, there are several things to choose from. Quick Draw allows you to attack faster with thrown weapons. Rapid Reload allows you to reload your crossbows faster. While those are their own styles, otherwise the ranged folk have the same lineup of feats they go to. Point Blank Shot allows you to deal more damage if you're close enough of the enemy. This also boosts both critical hit chances. Rabbit Shot allows you to attack faster and reload faster with your ranged weapon. This applies to all ranged weapons, including crossbows. This also increases bows damage. Precise Shot allows you to hit your target even if there would be an enemy between you and your target. You also get access to the stance Archer's Focus, which grants you more damage if you stay still while using a ranged weapon. Improved Precise Shot is another stance that at the cost of damage, your ranged attack now pierces through all targets. Lastly, there are ranged feats of Many Shots allows you to shoot multiple arrows with your bow, bursting down an enemy. Simple Thrown Weapon Expertise allows you to gain extra chances to hit a target twice per throw depending on your dexterity. This is known as Double Shot. Multitude of Missiles gives you a temporary yet big extra bonus to your double shot when using simple thrown weapons. There are other nice feats you can get that can work with both melee and ranged. Improved Critical allows you to be able to critical hit with one type of weapon much easier. It is a must-have for all non-spell casters. Power Critical makes you deal more damage if you critical hit an enemy. Precision is a combat stance that allows you to hit the enemy easier, as well as have better chances to critical hit sturdier enemies. Combat Expertise trades away your chances to hit to instead being even more tankier than defensive fighting. While in this stance, all your spells have triple the cooldown. Dodge and Mobility increases your chances to dodge attacks. They also allow you to then get a feat after that can help either melee, which is Spring Attack and Whirlwind Attack, or ranged, which is the Shot on the Run. Toughness increases your maximum HP. It is a rather safe bet when you don't know what to pick. This feat is useful for spellcasters too. For For spellcasters, you have several feats you can choose from that can affect your spells. Spell focus feats allow your spells of that specific school to be harder to save against. Spell penetration allows you to have better chances to get through the enemy's spell resistances, if they have one. Mental toughness and improved mental toughness increases your maximum spell points as you level up. Though the biggest thing for spellcasters are feats called meta magic, which boosts your spells at the cost of increased SP of that spell. Empowered and maximized spell both increases the damage your spells do. Empower gives less extra power but also costs less extra SP to use. Empower healing spell increases your healing capabilities. Enlarge spell doubles the range of your spell, though not the AoE. Extend spell doubles the duration of your spell. Eschew materials lets you forgo the normal material components of your spells. This does not work on special components. Weaken spell allows you to speed up your casting speed as well as being able to cast your spell without concentration check. Heightened spell makes your spells even harder to save against. These are the feats what I'd consider to be the key feats. There are more, far more, but with these you should have a good base to go with. Now it's time to get out there and help the folks. There are 3 instances of areas: cities/villages, the wildernesses, and the quest instances. City instances are areas where you can buy and sell items to merchants, repair your equipment, use the bank or auction house, visit the local tavern, accept quests, go to your guild ship, or see and interact with the other players. Quest instances are where you go in after you accepted the quest and use the quest entrance to get into the quest. Here you will see no other players other than those in your party. However, people who join your party after you enter a quest can still join you. Wilderness is more like an open area. It is like a quest instance except there is no quest. You can explore the area as you will, with usually some little objectives that give you XP from clearing the area, exploring, or killing rare encounters you may find as you wander around. Wildernesses are usually places with quest entrances as well, though not all. Quests have 5 different difficulties you can choose from. They are, in order of easiest to hardest: Casual/Solo, Normal, Hard, Elite, and Reaper, with Reaper having 10 sub-difficulties, 1 skull to 10 skulls. Free and Premium players at first can only open Normal difficulty, though you can open Hard once you complete the quest on Normal, and Elite/Reaper once you complete the quest on Hard. VIP players, aka players who pay for the subscription of the game, can open difficulties on any difficulty. People who have reincarnated and are on their second life can open Hard immediately, and those who are on their third life can open any difficulty. We'll talk briefly about the reincarnation soon. During quests you may encounter stuff that requires specific skills or ability score, like secret doors, traps, rusty levers, or maybe NPCs that require talking. Some of the skills just require a specific amount with no roll determined to boost it, like being able to spot or find traps. And some roll the d20 to see if you succeed, like with disabling traps and opening locks or diplomacy check. If you play in a party, make sure the one with the highest skill or score does the job, as failing a check usually has bad consequences. For instance, failing to disable a trap by 5 or more points blows the control panel up, meaning the trap cannot be disabled anymore. During a quest or in wilderness, when you drop below 0 but not below -10 HP, you aren't just dead yet. You are mostly dead though.
Well, it just so happens that your friend here is only mostly dead.
Instead, you're considered to be unconscious. You can still be revived by the heal skill or repair if you're warforged, or any healing spell or potion, or with some luck you stabilize on your own. As the time passes while you're unconscious, you have a 10% chance to stabilize on your own. If you don't, you take 1 damage. Once you drop down to -10 HP, or if you're immediately dropped to that number, or lower, you die. You can then be revived in a couple of ways. A party member can use resurrection spells on you, like Raise Dead. A party member can take your soul stone to a resurrection shrine, where you can interact with the sun shrine to resurrect yourself. You release your spirit, taking you to the place where you bound your spirit to via Spirit Binder, which you can find in taverns. Or you can use Astral Shards or a Sibiru Spirit Cake to revive yourself on the spot. Okay, the basic win stuff, but you never need to use these. As you finish the quest, or finish optional quests or objectives in Wilderness, you get a certain amount of XP. In quests, your XP is also increased by how well you did in the quest. For instance, killing enough enemies, or destroying boxes, not dying, not re-entering into the quest, or doing a difficulty for the first time, all give bonus percentage to your XP, which you can see in the experience menu here, which you can access via pressing X. Running the same quest over and over again starts yielding diminishing returns though, unless you run the quest for the first time on a new difficulty. Levels are divided into 5 parts, which you can see here. Each of these parts are called ranks. You start at rank 1, once you gain a rank, you get an action point, which you can use in the enhancements here, found from the main menu or by pressing Ctrl plus R like I mentioned in the controls part. Once you gain a 5th rank, you can level up. Talk to your class's trainer to get your level up. Of course, you can talk to another trainer should you want to multiclass, but we'll talk about that briefly later. As you level up, you allocate your skills and possible feats and spell choices you might have. You will see the summary of what you get, including automatically granted feats, at the end before you confirm your level up, since the new feats aren't just put into your skill bars automatically. You will need to find them in the feat tab. Also, during quests, you will most definitely find treasure. Speaking of which, when you open a chest that has loot, you obtain several kinds of items, mainly gold, a piece of equipment, and perhaps other stuff like ammunition or essences for crafting, or scrolls or wands. The item level of the equipment is based on what level the quest is at. So at level 2 quests, you usually get level 1 to 3 equipment. There are also chests that can contain named items. You usually have a higher chance to obtain the named item if you run the quest on higher difficulties. Aside from weapons and armor, you have several accessory slots which anybody can use. Gloves, wrists, goggles, headgear, necklace, trinket, cloak, belt, boots, and 2 rings. Each one has the specific bonuses they can have. Each one has the specific bonuses they can have, like goggles giving intelligence or increased damage. Though as you pick up more items, be mindful that a lot of effects don't stack. Oh no, the void is getting deeper and deeper. I should still probably explain. In this game, the same type of bonus from equipment or spells don't stack. So if you have a +2 enhancement bonus to strength, it doesn't stack with your +3 enhancement bonus to strength. Or if you have a +2 shield that gives you +5 shield bonus to AC, your shield spell doesn't give you more AC, because your shield overrides the +4 shield bonus from shield spell. Only the biggest of the values is counted. However, if you found a +2 insight bonus to strength instead, it would stack with your enhancement bonus to strength. Note that this only applies to equipments and spells. Anything you get from feats stack, and any bonus from enhancements will stack too, unless the enhancement states otherwise. This should be all information and some more on getting started. However, I'd like to give some general tips for new people as well. Here are some useful information for those getting into the game that will help a lot in your journey. In quests, you can find materials collected from the interactables, chests, or dropped by enemies. Things you pick up from interactables or enemies are collectibles. Breakables and chests can give you gems, and chests give you ingredients. You can get a bag for collectibles, gems, and ingredients. For collectibles, you can talk to Baudry Carterman and start his quest in order to get a collectibles bag. You can talk to Fitzpat the Fence in order to start his quest and obtain the small gem bag. You can also then talk to Felix the Caneth for you to obtain the tiny ingredients bag, who also gives you guidance on crafting. Once you get to Harbour, you can still return to Korthos Island. Simply talk to Valeria Cinderwind in order to return there. In Harbour, and Harbour alone for now, you may talk to any bartender to give you quests to do around the harbour. If you don't want to see your item while selling stuff to vendors, you can lock it by clicking here. If you instead want to flag some item you don't need and you want to sell it, you may flag it as junk by clicking here. You can then just click add junk from the vendor to add all junk items there. You can drag your equipment into your skill bars. This is a very easy way to switch weapons or gear on the fly. You can also use the weapon sets for easy access to equip your weapons for both your hands fast or to quickly unarm yourself. For spellcasters, there is a good chance that from your enhancements you're obtaining spell-like abilities, or SLAs for short. These abilities act like your normal spell, with the exception that they usually cost less SP to use and have longer cooldown. However, none of the SLAs are affected by the increased SP costs from metamagic feats. Speaking of metamagic feats, you can right-click a spell in your skill bar to apply metamagics on them individually. You can obtain the premium currency of the game, DDO points, by just playing the game. As you do quests, you get favor. You get more favor the harder difficulty you do the dungeon, though the max you get from a quest is on elite, and you can only obtain that much favor from that quest. Every 100 favor, you get DDO points. These can be repeated infinitely. There are some once per server bonuses at certain favor points as well. Guilds in this game are usually welcoming new players. Simply ask if you can join a guild in general chat in Harbor or Marketplace, and usually you get help. Guilds give access to the guild's airship that can offer you buffs, as well as stuff like a crafting station, a bank, an auction house, and vendors. They are very useful. Okay, I'll briefly explain about the deeper stuff now. Iconic heroes are possible class-race combination you can pick, where your first level in a class is always predetermined. However, in exchange, they gain access to their own racial enhancement tree, and they start at level 15 instead of 1. They do need to get higher levels until you can reincarnate them though. Mind your mains, we'll get to that. All of the iconic heroes are premium, which means you need to buy them. As I mentioned before, you can multi-class in this game. You can have up to 3 classes, and you can take any class at any level, provided you pass the prerequisites, like not being lawful in order to multi-class into Bard. Simply talk to the trainer you want to multi-class into when you want to get levels. Though a stern warning from me, do not multi-class without a good plan. I highly recommend first staying as a single class or staying pure before considering multi-classing. And once you do want to multi-class, I recommend looking into how you want the character to be through forums or building a character yourself. I will link my multi-classing guide in Steam as well as the character builder softwares in the descriptions for you to use. After reaching level 20, you no longer gain class levels or action points. Instead, you start gaining generic epic levels from level 21 to 30, and legendary levels from level 31 and beyond. These levels improve your character generally, though you do get access to the epic feats. You do need to talk to the fate spinner to level up in epic levels though. You also get access to epic quests. Some quests around the game have an additional epic or legendary difficulty in them that can change how the quest works, along with increasing the quest's level to epic/legendary levels. Epic destinies are epic exclusive generic enhancement trees you put points into beyond level 20. You can have up to 3 epic destinies available at all times. To obtain access to these trees, simply talk to the fate spinner so that she can take you to the junction of the spheres, where you can talk to all NPCs there to gain all access to those trees. Now finally for that last pin. Once you reach level 20, you are eligible to reincarnate. Reincarnation is a process where you will be able to return your character back to level 1 with several benefits. These include able to open harder difficulties immediately, able to have more ability score points to use during character creation, getting a few bonuses based on your class or race, and able to possibly choose a past life feat based on the class you were. This process is better known as true reincarnation. However, it does come with a penalty of sort. You need to gain more XP to level up. On second life, or when you first time reincarnate, you need to get 50% more XP from your first life, and on third life you need double the XP than what you needed in your first life. To learn about the reincarnation, and to learn about the 2 other reincarnations, I'll put up a link in the description to the reincarnation page in DDO Wiki, which explains it rather clearly. Remember all the collectibles and Canith essences you've been picking up as long as you've been questing? Canith crafting is where you can use all of those to craft an ideal equipment for your needs. Crafting is rather simple to understand. If you found any randomly generated items, you can buy dissolvers from the crafting vendors and turn all those into crafting essences. You can also turn a specific equipment into craftable base by disjuncting it instead. Each craftable item takes 3 shards in: minimum level, prefix and suffix shards. You can craft all of these using the crafting stations in the crafting hall, which you can find in the House Kundarak and House Canith. You can also find the same crafting stations from the airship. For more information, you can talk to Felix de Canith and then take the quest Maker gives you. I highly recommend going through it to understand the procedure. Before I wrap things up, I will quickly mention 2 very important tools that are available for you. DD has so much information that it's just a void of information. Even this video doesn't cover everything. However, DDO Wiki has all the stuff I mentioned and a lot more. If you have a question about the game, the wiki has you covered. I will link the wiki in the description. If you're planning on multiclassing or want to think ahead what feats and skills to pick so that you don't forget, you may use many of the character build programs available. They are very useful and I recommend looking into them, once you get accustomed to the game, of course. I will link 3 builders into the description. Feel free to check them out. With that out of the way, this video was long. Once again, I apologize if all this info is, well, overbearing, like a void. Like I said, there's so much information. Please take as much time as you need with the game. After all, the most important thing of DDO is enjoying the game. Don't let this info dump deter you from trying out the game. All of the info I linked can be found in the description below. And of course, if you have any questions, then please fire away in the comments and I'll help you the best I can. If there are a lot of questions, I could even make an extra Q&A/advanced video explaining this all in details. Thank you all for watching. I hope this information dump helped someone at least. I'll see you next time.